This is TWiT.
I'm on a dry week right now. Last week I was in Kansas City with a bunch of my friends. That involved an awful lot of whiskey, including that lovely rivalist that I got a chance to tour, the Union Horse Distillery. And next week I'm going to be fishing in Montana.
Oh,
that is
it's
not
your
something
annual
I do
trip.
very sober.
Yeah.
No, it's not sober at all. So this is the week where I'm like, I'm taking it easy. The liver
Time to
needs
give the liver a break. Yeah.
A little cruise. But I wanted to talk about a whiskey that I've been pursuing for some time. We hadn't talked about Japanese in a while. And with a name like Chichibu, it's probably Japanese. And Chichibu is outside of Saitama, Japan, which is about 100 kilometers northwest of Tokyo, in the sort of rolling hills, plains areas, a bit into the interior of Japan. It's a central Japan where you have below freezing winters and very warm summers. So large temperature room. It can be very humid there. If you've ever spent a summer in Tokyo, you've been very sticky. That's the sort of the reality of it. And we are talking specifically about a fellow by the name of Ichiro Akuto, whose family has been in distilling and brewing for over 300 years. Direct family lineage over multiple generations since 1625, of obviously mostly sake. But in 1945, at the end of the war, his father established a whiskey distillery called Hanyu. So this is not as old as your famous Japanese distilleries that you know well, like Nikkei and Yamazaki, but it's still an older distillery. Unfortunately, while they had the great boom in the 80s, that was followed by the Japanese economic crisis in the early 90s, and it did take out his grandfather's distillery. The Hanyu Distillery shut down in 2000 because of that financial crisis and who knows what else. But his grandson, Ichiro, did take control of about 400 casks of whiskey from his grandfather's distillery. And a few years later, starting in 2005, he started putting together editions of some of these very old whiskeys they called the playing card series. These are considered unicorns. I've been looking to just try a couple of them. They're very hard to come by. There's not very many of them. And they did make 54 different bottlings. AKA a deck of cards, 52 cards plus the 2 jokers makes this whole thing. And in 2020, a full card series, all 54 bottles, was sold at auction for $1.5 million.
What?
Yeah, it's a little nuts.
54 bottles? Not
54
barrels?
bottles. Yeah, bottles. So this had been a collector had been rounding up one of each of all of the card series, and when he had the complete set, he put it up for auction and did very, very well. So I'm like I said, I've always been looking for these, but in the meantime, while Ichiro had been establishing relationships and doing work with his grandfather's barrels, he started up his own distillery called the company Venture Whiskey. And he called it the Chichibu Distillery because it's in Chichibu. So the company was set up in 2004 when he started selling his grandfather's whiskey. In 2007, he completed the distillery. It was operational in 2008. So it's young. They're still only 15, 16 years running. And he's trying to make purely Japanese whiskey, but at least initially, using a fair bit of Scottish malt. He certainly uses Scottish stills, but in his angle of being more Japanese, the production lots are very small, so he uses a stainless wash tun, only 2,400 liters. They stir by hand, so as much hands-on as possible.
That was this here.
Those are stills.
The
wash tun will be stainless steel. It might be in the pictures somewhere. By the way, they have no website, so I just gave you links to the Facebook page and the Instagram because they literally have no website. They just don't. They have not bothered.
They don't need one, my friend.
But they've got 8 washbacks that they've made out of Minnesota oak, which is unusual because it's a very difficult wood. We talked about this before, the Japanese oak. Typically, they're not big enough until the trees are over 100 years old to even try and make staves or wood from. And it's also not a real straight growing oak, so it's a challenge to assemble these things. I think the wood grows mostly in the far north, but he's managed to round up enough of it to make his washbacks from it. So this is where fermentation takes place, unusually in wooden washbacks, specifically for using this oak, which introduces its own flavor. Most folks, when you're using Mizunara for aging whiskey, find it's not that good in short-term use, but if you age for long periods of time, it brings up really nice flavors. So the fact they use it in washbacks is unusual, but traditional washbacks are often cedar or Oregon pine. They're often wood because it does hold on to the lactobacillus in a particular way that does introduce character to the fermentation.
Are these the washbacks you're talking about?
That's the washbacks we're talking about. Exactly.
It's very typical Japanese style.
Yeah, the strap model. Yeah. And so these are, and those are 3,000 liters each. So they're fairly big. There's 8 of them. But again, nobody else does this. There's other wooden, it's the only one with Japanese oak. They do have Scottish stills, Fourth Eyes of Scotland stills, a pair of 3,000 liter ones, a wash and a spirit still. So that's pretty traditional. They decide on the head, heart, tail cut by taste. So they're not necessarily timing things. They literally look to the character of the whiskey because their runs are small. They don't make a huge amount of whiskey, about maybe only 90,000 liters a year. So this is very craft distillery, and it's kind of secret. They don't have a big public presence, and they only make small batches, and they often win awards, but they're not well seen and not in many markets. When a production lot goes up for sale, they're sold out in hours. Because it'll typically a run of 3,000 to 5,000 bottles in a given lot.
Is it that good?
Yeah. I still don't know. It's like
we don't know.
It's very mythological, right?
Yeah.
He's mostly been aging in bourbon casks, but now starting to use the Mizunara wood as well. And his warehouses are old school Scottish, so dirt floor, wooden racks, 3 to 4 high. Try to keep it as cool as possible in that hot environment. He is starting to use some Japanese barley, which is fairly hard to come by. He's even started using Japanese peat, doubly difficult to come by. And he's been doing his own floor maltings, again, only in very small lots. And most of his whiskeys had no age statement because he's just not been around that long. So they're pretty rare to assemble. One of the very few I've run across that actually had an age statement on it, he has his first 10. So the first 10 years old. And they're incredibly rare. I found one for sale for $1,600 US, which I'm not prepared to buy. So, but they're famously, his most award-winning, he won a lot of awards when he first went into production. 2007 to 2013, he won Best Japanese Whiskey every year at the World Whiskey Competition.
Wow.
But he's now moved into doing a lot of blending work, both with his grandfather's collection and with other distillers. Not that he reveals who it is, but he's now 4 years running winning. It's one thing to win the best Japanese whiskey, win your Japanese whiskey. That's one thing. But he's winning best blend in the world now.
Wow.
4 years from 2017 to 2020. And that is combining between 5 and 20-year-old whiskeys from 4 to 6 countries, including his own. And then again, small production lots. But that whole facility there, they have no visitor center. They don't. It's not open to the public. But once a year, typically in February, around a celebration time in that part of Japan, for industry experts only, he will do 6 tours of 20 people. So, and Ichiro is part of that tour. Like, it's a big deal to be with him. Now, that being said, there is one whiskey you can typically lay your hands on of Ichiro's. And I could have gotten one if I'd been planning more, but I thought I'd bring this one up and I'll probably go pick one up. And it is the Ichiro Malt and Grain, what they call the white label blend. So that's the combined whiskey. It's typically about $75 US, can go up to as much of $100 depending on where you can find it. And it is an exotic blend, and it's unique in the space. The industry thinks it's the bee's knees for it's by far his least expensive whiskey. The white.
Is it this 111 proof one?
Nope, that would be probably $1,000. That one. No,
wow.
They call it the white label for a reason. It is white. That one's in the local liquor stores here in BC, and it is available in sometimes in Total Wine, sometimes in Bevmo, certainly in some specialty shops. You'll find that one.
They say if
you want to look for any of the others, prepare to start at $500 for any of his special editions.
It must be good.
Anything like that.
Well, now we know what to give Richard for a gift.
Yeah. There's not a lot of unicorns that I chase around anymore, but this is an odd little distillery. It's been around for a long time. It very rarely publicly markets itself in any way because they're selling everything they make.
Doesn't need to. Yeah.
Yeah. They're as busy as they can be. He's sort of considered the definitive craft distillery in Japan.
Nice.
So it's just an odd duck. And I'm just trying to figure out if me making YouTube videos about whiskey makes me enough of an industry professional to get in on that February tour. Because I'd like to walk through this place by far, but probably pretty tricky to get a spot.
Yeah. I think you should invite Richard Ichiro. I know he's a big fan of Windows Weekly, so...
obviously, yeah. He's listening right now, I'm sure.
Who wouldn't be? Wow.
Anyway,
cool.
Folks talk about me getting into the weeds, so I thought, here, you want to see where weeds go?
This is weeds, baby. We're talking weeds now.
Way in the weeds.
Way in the weeds. Very cool.
Are we going to get into the weed or just the weeds?
He only has 9,000 followers on Instagram, which tells you that it isn't that well known, right?
No, and I think that's almost intentional, right? Like you have to know enough to know. They apparently are working on another distillery, a larger one, so the production may increase sometime in the future. But for now, we have this little, quiet little distillery and kind of in the middle of nowhere that's making very unique product and trading on what his grandfather made decades before.
Chichibu, Chichibu, B-U, Distillery. Chichibu. Now, we really got to get a bottle for Richard so that we can all enjoy it together.